Hey guys, welcome to the channel and welcome to the MILVIZ C310R for Microsoft Flight Simulator, here loaded up at Oxford Kidlington Echo Golf Tango Kilo, I believe. And we're going to take this aircraft for a flight down to Booker or Wycombe Air Park. It's going to take about, I guess, about 10-15 minutes worth of flight time. And on the way, I'm going to tell you why I think this aircraft is such a phenomenon waiting to be unleashed on this simulator. Point number one being, it looks brilliant. I hope you can agree. The texturing and the paneling and the, well, just everything, including the doors, the chocks, the flags, the blanks, the baggage. It's all looking pretty tidy. So let's jump into the cockpit and get on our way. The EFB or the iPad on the upper left can be clicked into place using the pillar on the left, or you can find it down in the lower right portion, and you can operate all the doors and the avatars or the passengers inside as well. Let's close everything on the outside. We'll get rid of the control locks and the chocks. The parking brake is on. All the doors are shut. We're not going to have any passengers today. We'll just have us. Because, well, why not? Why spoil the view? As a note, whilst I'm here, just note that the passenger comfort index is currently at 50%, and we'll see what we get to that by the end of the flight. Services-wise, the fuel is 50% full. We've got a clean aircraft. You can set it to dirty if you wish, but I like them clean. Options-wise, we are going to go for the default Asobo GNS 530, but you've also got space for the PMS 50, the TDS GTN 750, and as well as some Asobo Garmin G5s instead of the steam gauges in front, but I'm liking the steam gauges, and I'll just stick to the default for now. Initial states, we're going for owned, which is essentially a state saving. It appears in your sim how you left it from the previous sortie. But you can set it to rental, which means that some of the switches may have been moved, i.e. somebody may have flown your airplane in the meantime. So go through the checklist and make sure those switches are in the right place. We'll go for owned. We've got maximum realism, so system realism, engine realism. But don't be scared of this. If you're someone that just wants to fly this simply, you can do. It's not a problem. And even with the maximum realism settings, it's not too bad, and I'll demonstrate that as we go. Individualization just essentially means that each component has its own individual nature, may wear and tear at a slightly different rate to everything else. And you've, of course, got the wear and tear where something can fail. And we've put failures to frequent. I haven't had one yet, but we'll see how it goes on this sortie. In the status, we can have an inspect and have a look. It looks like our spark plugs and our oil supply on the right look to be a little bit more worn, but nothing needs replacing, so we're not going to. That is the EFB. In the cockpit looks particularly nice. It's a great place to be, especially on this rainy day, and you can hear the pitter-patter in the background. Sound effects on this aircraft are brilliant. In fact, some of the best sound effects I've heard ever. Particular points to note, you can hear when it's quiet the ticking of the clock. The rain's getting in the way of that. The lock on this door has a really satisfying resonance with the spring as it engages, and the engines, when they start up, are the best sounding engines in the sim. Bold statement, but you can decide for yourself in just a minute. So I'm not going to follow any checklists, and apologies if I get anything particularly wrong, but the aircraft will tell me if I do, and for the most part it'll work just fine. So here we go. Parking brake is on. Battery can go on. Avionics master switch can go on. Nav light can go on. The mixture and the props are fully forward. I'll crack the throttle open just a little bit. And I think the fuel selector switches should both be in the green selector ready for start. From my previous sortie, that's where I left them. And now we're good to start. We don't need the fuel pumps. If you do, then you may run the risk of flooding the engine. But we will switch the magnetos on first. Good idea. Prime the right, start the right. Beautiful. Prime the left, start the left. Listen to that. That sounds excellent, especially when it's idling. Every prop aircraft I've flown in the sim so far doesn't have enough bass. This one hits the note beautifully. Lovely stuff. Now that we've got everything started, let's put some alternators on. And whilst I remember, the circuit breaker panel does work, so if I pop the left alternator now, you can see with left alternator selected, the left alternator is 0. Push it back in, and it starts reading again. All the circuit breakers work. So we'll go for taxi, anti-col is the red beacon, P2 I'll do later. Everything is where it needs to be. Let's taxi on. Ground handling of this aircraft is very simple. Right. Shut the window. But you've got to bear in mind that it does not turn on a dime. You cannot pivot it round one main wheel. It does need some space, so plan accordingly. The scenery you see here is by PilotPlus, available via Orbx or the Microsoft Flight Sim Marketplace. And it is a very, very nice little airfield. Oxford Aviation Training flies from here, so if you're into your general aviation flying, then here's the place for you. Whilst we're on our way, I know the initial track is going to be 125. The course bar is still set to where it was when I previously loaded this aircraft, so I don't need to change it. I've done this sortie a couple of times, and each time it is just a joy. Typical English weather. Okay, we're going to use a flaps up takeoff. The altimeter is set, mixture and prop fully forwards. The landing lights, oh, I closed them. Let's landing lights on, strobe lights on, taxi straight, P2 on, prop anti-ice on. Very simple. You've got your batteries, you've got your magnetos and your fuel pumps on the front, you've got your lighting, your anti-ice and your avionics switch on the left. All simple stuff. We will say we're good to go. We've got air traffic clearance, the squawk is on, the strobes are on, the flaps are up, and the doors are locked. Listen to these engines. Let's do a rolling takeoff. Speed's alive, engine's good, easy to keep straight on the takeoff roll, very light on the back pressure, very quickly airborne. RPM, let's bring the RPM back to 2500. We'll bring the throttle back to 24 on the manifold pressure. And 800 feet, we'll start a right turn heading 125. Oh, I stand corrected. My course bar is not where I left it. Like that. Scrolling. Close enough. Okay, she's climbing very nicely at 1,000 feet per minute, so let's engage some autopilot so I can do some more stuff without crashing. So autopilots up to 1,000, heading. The autopilot is climbing her nicely up to, well, what do we want? 4,000 feet. So let's set 4,000 feet. feet. Good-o. Next thing we should really do is bring the landing lights in. And they are animated and they do produce drag. And we want to dial in our destination because I haven't set the VOR up. So here we go, direct to. I've gone the wrong way, but here we go. Echo Golf. Where's my alphabet? Oh my goodness. Echo Golf. Tango. Bravo. Booker, hi Wycombe. Enter, activate, enter. That looks sensible. We'll put GPS there, we'll put nav hold there. And now we'll get an alert 3,000 feet to level off at 4,000 feet. Well, it's not the nicest day, but it does look pretty spectacular. And just by design of this aircraft, look at these lovely panoramic windows. I mean, if you wanted to cruise around enjoying the view, what better aeroplane would you do it in? One final thing I should really do is the magnetos. So now that we're climbed up through 2,000 feet, I'll bring the magnetos back. You can see the fuel flow start to reduce. And I'll bring these back until I start seeing the RPM being affected. There. So when I see the RPM getting affected, I'll push them up a little bit. And that seems to be a decent place. And then I'll put the manifold pressure back up to where it was. That is my technique, and I'm sorry if it's not real, but it works for me, and that's what I'm going with. Top climb, 4,000 feet. We've got 18 miles to go. Let's have a look outside, see what she looks like. I think you'll agree, especially with this sort of backdrop, she is pretty special. The lighting's very nice. I particularly like the strobe light flashing. That strobe light is very nice indeed. But the rest of the aircraft is up to the standards you'd expect from MILVIZ. Okay, in cockpit we're going to shut down an engine just to show you how easy that is to do. In fact, before we do that, let's have a look at our passenger comfort. Oh dear, the cabin is cold and steady. So in order to make that better, we'll turn some temperature up. We'll put the heating fan on. And if we go back here, we'll see that the cabin is cold. And hopefully, in a minute anyway, it'll say warming. There we go, warming slowly. My passengers will be happier. 15 miles to go. Let's shut down one of these engines. I'm going to do the left engine. So I've put left engine mixture to idle cutoff, left prop to feather. The autopilot is handling it just fine. And the left engine is stopped. So if you want to fly this aircraft with proper single engine performance and characteristics and checklist items, then it is easy to do. Okay, time to restart it then. So the mixture needs to go back, the prop goes forwards, it'll start spinning. We'll put the throttle back to about an inch and we'll hold the left start switch. Oh, she went. She needed a little persuasion, but she got there. Throttle back up, mixture to where it was. Manifold pressure set, RPM set back to where it was. Oh, gentle on the mixture. There we go. So what have we covered so far? The way it looks is second to nothing I've seen in the sim. It is a good looking airplane and very well put together. The sounds are brilliant. The characteristics of the aircraft are good, and in a moment I'm just going to do some stalls for you so you can see how she handles close to the stall. I'll also land at the airfield so you get a sense of how she lands as well. Warming slowly, they're getting happier, but they might have been a little bit upset by single engine. The other parameters that will upset passengers is if you climb and descend more than 1,000 feet a minute, if you use more than 30 degrees angular bank, and if you push negative G, they become very unhappy. So there'll be a live stream of this aircraft from MILVIZ coming up on Wednesday, the what'll it be, the 3rd or 4th? I guess the 4th of May. If you want the latest information on the release of this aircraft, prices, etc., then please check out their social media feed. But suffice to say is this aircraft is a joy to fly. And I could sit here cruising from the north of the UK to the south, absolutely no problem. Very comfortable indeed. Got 7 miles to go, so let's disengage the autopilot and have a little play with it. So this is the G&G stall. Full backstick. And she's very stable. So she's not going to punish you if you do get her slow or you're too aggressive with her. Of course, she's not aerobatic capable. It explicitly says that you should not do aeros in her. I mean, you could if you wanted to, but you shouldn't. And now I'm going to do a power off stall. That'll be the low power warning. Through 100 knots, you start to get the buffet. 92, 93 knots, there's more buffet, and at around about 87, you start to get sink. You see the vertical speed increasing. That'll go down to about 2, 2.5. Not so much today, it was more earlier. But even at the stall, very easy to control. Now my airfield's down there somewhere. What we're going to do is join left base and show you how easy she is to land. Now I've had the privilege of actually having early access to a lot of the beta builds, although I wasn't active in the testing itself. I can vouch for the amount of realism and the amount of attention to detail they've been working through, including having real C310R pilots comment on the flight dynamics, so accurate flight dynamics from real-world pilots, always a bonus in the sim. Now that we've got 4 miles to go, we'll put our landing light back on. There she goes. I guess I could demonstrate a circuit breaker or two. Fuel flow, let's pull a fuel flow. And a fuel gauge. Oh, that's a nice rainbow. Off to the left, you'll see my fuel quantity is now reading 0. My fuel flow is also reading 0, but my engine's working just fine. Excellent. Beautiful. Let's take a picture of that. Well, for landing, and I'll re-emphasize that I'm not running any real checklists. I'll put the mixture full forward, the prop full forward, the landing lights are on, the parking brake is off. The scenery is gorgeous, and there's my airfield down to the left 10 o'clock. In the white arc, I'm going to drop stage 1 of flaps. The aircraft has 2 stages of flaps. Oh, whilst I remember, throwing it around, yeah, they weren't happy with that. We've got 0 on the passenger comfort. Dropping the gear. 3 greens and final stage of flap, and we're looking for a threshold speed of about 100 to 95 knots. That'll work. At 100 knots, my rate of descent should be around about 500 feet a minute, so I got a little bit fast. Let's try a view from here. Wow, that's trippy. I'll have to land it from here though. Oh, I got a bit slow in the process. Here we go. The aircraft sits fairly high on the ground, so when you flare, you have to flare slightly earlier than you think if you're used to other aircraft. I don't want to go much slower than this, otherwise we'll just drop onto the runway. Idle. flare. Not my worst landing, not my best. Oh, stay straight, it's a bit wet. Oh, stay straight, stay straight. Oh, don't judge me. That wasn't the best in the world. But we're down. So in summary of this aircraft, it is a joy to fly. It looks great. It's got some great features. The iPad and the realism settings with having the passenger comfort level, the rental option so that other people use it whilst you're not, which is very strange, but very good idea. The sound effects, the engines, let's listen to those again. Lovely sounds. Now, I haven't done any checks after landing. I know I've got the landing light still on. I've got the strobes still on. I'm still squawking. Oh my goodness, it's all going wrong. Strobes. Oh, I'm going on the grass. Don't do that either. My goodness.